the seasons change, when there's either an equinox or a solstice, we have a new year, and we have holidays that are scary. The world is in danger. And the king or the god have to die in order for everything to become right again. First of all, there will be chaos before the new year. It's either 8 days or 40 days. The number 40 appears quite a lot in the Bible. When my daughter was learning for her Aliyah Torah with Mike here, he also talked about the number 40, which appears a lot. Sometimes it looks like a random number, but how many days do we say slichus? 40 days. How many days do Christians fast? Also 40 days of Lent. So this number is actually quite typological. It's the number of days you have to repent. When before Hanukkah, Adam saw that the days were getting shorter because the world was created, man was created in Rosh Hashana, the light was created in Kfar Saba, and the days were getting shorter, and he thought that the world is about to end. So it was also 40 days that he fasted? Okay. He fasted for 8 days, and the days began to become longer, and the world was saved.
Moshe and Har Sinai, 40 days.
Moshe was in Har Sinai for 40 days. Okay, so 40 days is a critical number of days, which is why we say slichus and why Lent is a fast of 40 days. So what we have here is a few different cultures when the world is in danger and someone has to pay with their lives. Killing a god is not very practical, but it's done sometimes. Tammuz goes to the underworld. Siavash, whom I mentioned, dies. Who dies on Friday the 13th of spring? That man, right?
Also
Yeshua.
spent 40 days in the desert.
What?
Also spent 40 days in the desert.
Spent 40 days in the desert. He died and is resurrected. Sometimes, instead of killing the king, we have to kill his representative on earth. Who's God's representative on earth? The king, right? So we have to kill the king. In some places, they really did kill the king. There's evidence of cultures that they didn't kill the king every New Year, but once every 12 years, they had either to kill the king or you had to prove that he's worthy. 12 years also connects to the scroll of Esther, because where is all the story happening? When's the...
Here?
And when? In what year of his reign? Mishnat 12 Lemucho. So all the mess there is on the 12th year of his reign, and there are cultures that have to replace the king every 12th year. And if they don't replace him, at least has to be big massacre. Blood is a good thing. Okay, there has to be a big mess. In some other cultures, they have a temporary king. One of the people who are on death row becomes king for a few days. Sometimes it's 5 days, sometimes it's 8 days, sometimes it's a week, sometimes 10 days. He becomes king. He's really the king. For example, in the festival of Sake, which is a December festival, I'll tell you about it in a minute, but there the king wears white, goes to the field, sits on the floor, and tells the people, I am one of you, and the people can approach him. And one of the people on death row is the king. He sleeps with the king's wives, he eats on the king's table, and guess what happens when the new year starts?
It's food.
Yeah, he's executed, and then everything is back to normal.
Can't he decree that he won't be killed?
No. He can't. No, he can't. The laws he makes and the decrees he gives are not real. Now let's take this big story of the world is in danger. We have to do things we don't normally do. most of the time it also has to do with sexual promiscuity. And the king has to die at the end. Now let's impose this on Purim. What happens in Purim? Who's in danger? Jews, the good guys. You know what the Iranians call Purim? The anti-Semitic Iranians, Holocaust Irani.
Why do you use the term Iranian and not Persian?
Okay, why am I using the term Iranian and not Persian? Iran and Persia are two different terms. Iran is a much older name. The kings of Persia and the prophets, Zarathustra, used the term Aryanam, of the Aryans, because Iranians are of Aryan descent. They're of the Indo-European tribe called Aryans. And they occupied a territory which they called of the Aryans, Aryanam. And all the kings and the prophets say Aryanamcha and Aryanamcha. They distinguish between Iranians and non-Iranians. This is Iran. Persia was one city-state. But because the government and the empire sprang from this city-state, the Greeks fought the Persians. They didn't fight the Iranians, they fought the Persians. And then when the Shah wanted to show that we are closer to the West, we're not your enemies because the Persians are the enemies of the Greeks. We're not your enemies. We are Aryan like you. And he asked the whole world to call Persia Iran again. But Iranians themselves always called Iran, Iran. We're back to the scroll of Esther. The good guys are in danger, the Jews, right? Who's killed? Okay, at the end, the great massacre is of everyone, not only Iranians. It's the people all over the empire. Who's the bad guy who's getting killed? Is the king getting killed?
His representative.
No, his representative, right? The king gives Haman his signet ring, so we can kill Haman, the temporary king, the fake king, the king who is on death row, and his children who have all sorts of nice names. What happens in Pesach? Are we in danger? Yes. Is there a great massacre? Is there someone who hides their identity? Actually, the king here doesn't die, but everyone else dies. All the firstborns are dead, and there's a great massacre, and we're saved. And when is Pesach? In the middle of Nisan. When is Purim?
The king didn't die.
Yeah, but there's a great massacre, and we're saved. Now, in order to celebrate Purim, okay, we do things we don't normally do. We dress up. Sexual promiscuity in Purim. How do we dress up? To this day, all the girls dress up like sluts, and all the men dress up as women. It's human nature, okay? But we have legitimacy. We get legitimacy to do these things.
Well, even more, we drink, which lowers the inhibitions as well.
Right, we drink too much, which we also shouldn't do, right? We drink until we can't distinguish between good and bad, which is something
Well, it's
between Haman, who is bad, and Mordechai, who is good. So we do things we don't normally do. But Pesach is the most normal holiday of the year, with the whole family, right?
No, which isn't.
No, it isn't.
It's different. We change up the whole house. We have special food. We could drive ourselves crazy. And then we break down, and then we have sleep.
Right. And not only do we have a nervous breakdown and clean the house like we never do and invite all the aunts we don't like, what does the little child ask in Pesach? Why is it different? Okay, now we're so used to Pesach we don't see it's different. Actually, the child asks this before the meal. How does he know that the meal is going to be different? Originally, it was like a Greek feast. First of all, the feast, and then the story. And the child asked this because he was asking after the feast. But then the Gaonim in Baghdad noticed that when you have the feast first, no one stays. So they switched the order. But the child still asked, why is it different before? How is it different? How is it different? How is Pesach? What do we do with that's different?
Father's lying down on a pillow sideways instead of sitting up.
Okay, we lie down on pillows instead of sitting up, which is what?
Roman.
It's
Roman.
Roman.
freedom.
We're acting like goyim, right? We're acting like the ruling class,
Weird things on the table. The food. It's weird.
right?
We don't eat it.
Which is like Yom Kippur, except that in Yom Kippur there's no food on the table. Yeah, we're waiting with the food. What else is different? We eat different food, right? We don't eat what we normally do. We drink 4 cups, which is something Jews don't normally do. It's also something that we're trying to be like the goal. Okay, so Pesach was also originally a contradictory, a nafochu holiday. It just became normal over the years. And because, does anyone recline here in Pesach?
We have a cushion.
Put a cushion there.
Most people don't do it anymore, but this is one of the things that shows us that it's different. And it's, we don't do things the normal way. I think it's a good time to tell you about the ascension of Darius II.